Welcome back to another episode of the Four Wide Podcast. As always, Jeremiah Stoddard, Jonathan Williams, and Dan Kiley have a good one for you. It's been a pretty exciting day full of games today, so we're going to jump straight into it in just a moment. Sorry, my voice is a little bit screwed up. Just got back in town today from the Georgia game, so it doesn't sound too good for me. But how's everybody doing today so far? Dan, Jonathan, feeling good?
Yeah, man, it's been a great day. Had a lot going on, and just looking at your two faces, that must have been a hell of a time in Lexington.
It was something. It was something. Jonathan?
The Classic City boys know how to throw it down, all right. So, yeah, we were up there in Lexington having a good old time. But also ready to talk some NFL football, man. There's some interesting things. First time ever today that I've ever seen a football game just get turned off basically halfway through it. So there's that, and we'll definitely talk about that later, or at least I'm going to. But, yeah, I'm doing great, man. Ready to bring the juice.
No, let's go ahead and start with that because I've never seen that before, right? So, CBS is broadcasting the Cowboys and Vikings game, and then in the third quarter, was it still the third quarter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, third quarter, the game's so out of hand. CBS literally changes the game they're broadcasting for our area, and all of a sudden, I don't even remember what game they switched it to, but the Bengals game, the Bengals, and that they switched to the Steelers and Bengals game because it was more exciting. Yeah, I get it. It was definitely more exciting, but I've never seen CBS. Like, is that normal? Have y'all ever seen that happen before?
No, dude, literally, I was sitting on the couch watching the game, and I left for like 5 minutes to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and then all of a sudden the Steelers and the Bengals were on. So I was like, oh, maybe they're doing like a quick recap of what's going on or something big just happened. And it just kept playing the game. And so I was like, what the heck just happened? And then come to find out, they literally turned the Cowboys game off. Like, I guess they made the executive decision that this is not safe for children to see. This type of murder that is going on national TV right now is not safe for the human eye. So we need to get this off the screen and switch it over to something more family friendly.
Well, many years ago, they don't leave football games early, even when they're blowouts. They don't leave them early to go to other programming, and the reason they don't do that is because I want to say it was either in the late 70s or the early 80s where they left a game and went to like the movie of the week or whatever. And then it ended up being like one of the most miraculous comebacks in NFL history. So then they kind of like made a rule with the network programming that they were never allowed to do that. Now, I don't know about going from one game to the other where they could obviously just switch the channel, right? Switch the feed right back if something got kind of crazy. But I've known for a long time that they weren't supposed to go away from a game that's on so that is a little bit different. For sure.
Well, and it's one thing though, like it's CBS, because obviously it's like a local thing, right? So like CBS broadcasts like 4 different games at the same time, but it depends on your area of which game you actually get to see.
Correct.
And so that's the game that our area was supposed to be watching was the Vikings and Cowboys game, and then I guess they were like, nobody wants to watch this. But if I was a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'd have been ticked off. I mean, because you want to still watch the game, even though you're kicking somebody's butt, you still want to see what's going on, right? Like I wouldn't want to have the game turned off. If it was a Georgia game or a Falcons game and they switched it mid-game just because we were winning a lot, I'd be ticked off.
I guess they just kind of figured that since this isn't their main area that they don't really have that many fans. I guarantee you they didn't do that in Dallas.
Well, the thing is, everybody claims it's America's team, so it's a little odd that you would turn off America's team when, like, I guess arguably that should be who everybody's watching at that time because everybody in America should be watching America's team right now. So
are they really America's team anymore? I don't buy that.
I doubt it. No,
I don't feel that way. But anyways, outside of that game, Dan, I'm gonna start with you on this. What game kind of stood out to you? That's how we usually like to start the show. We started with something a little different today, but we'll go to that now. What stood out to you today?
Well, there was 2 really, but I think I'm going to start with one that I think you boys can really chew on this bone. Also, is the Browns and the Bills. That game getting moved from Buffalo to Detroit. And then I think they sold 56,000 tickets in 3 minutes for that game when they put it on the market. Detroit people are like, hey, we get to go watch like 2 good teams play. This would be a lot of fun. Although the Browns were not really that great. But I think everybody went to go see the Bills. But I just want to start off with Josh Allen. I know that he's playing with a torn UCL or whatever that is, or partially torn UCL or whatever the case may be. He needs Tommy John surgery, but I guess the doctors have convinced their doctors that it's basically whether he can play through the pain or not. That's all that really matters. And so he's going to give it a whirl. And I think Jeremiah, you said something a little bit that kind of caught me, raised my eyebrows, like, well, you just kind of hurt your team at this point. Listen, I love, as much as anybody else, I love when a guy is willing to put his team on their back and just and really suck it up and just go play, because he doesn't want to let his team down. But there is that line that you have to draw in the sand, and at some point you have to decide whether you being tough is awesome and something awe-inspiring for your team, or if it's actually hurting your team. And I really thought moving the game from the snow to indoors, it was going to be a higher scoring game. I thought that we'd get to see the best out of everybody for obvious reasons. And honestly, it just really wasn't that great of a game. I mean, 31-23 was entertaining, whatever, but I don't know. I don't know what your guys' take is, but mine, I left like a little disappointed.
Well, since I am the only doctor around here, I'll go ahead and give you my professional advice. And I'd say, yeah, dude, if what they're saying is you need Tommy John surgery, which is what a lot of MLB pitchers deal with, and it's a lengthy recovery. Like, this is not like some tic-tac, knick-knack injury that you get sidelined for 4 or 5 weeks or whatever. Like, this is something that takes a very long time because you got to rehabilitate your arm.
It's
and
like
it's
a
just
year
a lengthy
process for baseball
And
players.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, and you're in gruesome pain. Like, that's why you don't see pitchers trying to pitch through it, because you literally cannot throw to the best of your ability when you need Tommy John surgery. And so the same thing goes for a dude throwing a football, especially for someone like Josh Allen, who freaking rifles that thing all over the football field. At that point, and today especially showed me that him playing with that injury is only hurting his team more. He's not helping his team out while he's out there dealing with that injury, trying to fight his way through it or whatever. Look, I know that Bills Mafia crew up there, those guys are tough as nails. But now is probably not the time for you to try and be tough as nails, Josh Allen. Now is the time for you to rest up, because you got a long career ahead of you, or at least we hope that you have a long career ahead of you, and you're a really good football player. So let's not inhibit your ability now and crash and burn your team season in the process of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And next week they get the Lions. So that's a good game to try to go with somebody else at quarterback and give him some time off and see what you can do there. I think that's a safe bet to do it. No, but if I asked both of y'all beforehand, right, and if I said, hey, one quarterback, it's the Bills and the Browns. One quarterback's going to go 18 for 27, 197 yards and 1 touchdown. The other quarterback's going to go 28 for 41, 324 yards and 3 touchdowns. Every single person's going to say, oh, definitely Josh Allen's the one throwing for 324 yards, right?
100%.
Still playing so well right now. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do when what's his face? Watson.
Deshaun Watson comes back next week, right? That's
Next
when his
week, right?
suspension
He's
ends,
got an
right?
11 game suspension, so it might not
This was
be
week
next
11, right?
Well, this was week 11, but they've only played 10 games, right? So one more game.
I don't know. Maybe.
Because of
Yeah,
bye
maybe.
week.
I
So
don't
he's got
know.
one more game.
You're 100% right when you say his time is running out, but he has not been the reason they're losing football games. He's actually played really, really well, and I'm happy for that guy. I mean, he's been a journeyman guy, quarterback who's been around the league, just floating in here and there. Never really got a chance. Was it New England who gave him an extended chance at one point? I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, New England gave him a little bit. He didn't really get to play in Indianapolis very much, but he did play a little. He started a few games in New England, I'm pretty sure.
So I'm really happy for him that he's had an opportunity. And obviously I was watching Red Zone because we don't get that game wasn't in our area. Or maybe it was. It doesn't matter. I was watching Red Zone and they kept flipping away from it, so I didn't get to see every single play of it, obviously. But I have so many questions. Like, how does Nick Chubb have 14 carries and 19 yards? I don't know that that's ever happened to him before in an NFL game where he didn't get hurt. Maybe he was hurt. I don't know. That game had me asking more questions than I got answers out of it.
No, it definitely did.
It's kind of, I guess the good news is that for the Browns, like if you're just looking at their team holistically in that game, is that now you kind of have an idea that if Nick Chubb isn't getting his carries, if he isn't getting his yards, then Jacoby Brissett in at quarterback can at least lead you to a victory. I know that the Bills definitely didn't play their best game offensively, but it's nice kind of knowing, because like ever since Nick Chubb was drafted to the Browns, what has their entire offense been? It's been predicated around how good Nick Chubb is and what he's doing. And he's basically been their entire offense ever since he got there. They tried different things. They brought in Jarvis Landry. They had Odell Beckham Jr. at one point as well with Baker Mayfield. That didn't really work out. It was still the Nick Chubb show. Now they got Amari Cooper over there as well. So they've tried a lot of different things on offense, but it still remains Nick Chubb's team. And he's what they run their entire offense around. Him and Kareem Hunt, they got a nice 1-2 punch over there. And so now maybe it is good that you get some confidence in your throwing game, and maybe it's good that your receivers get some confidence as well, especially with Deshaun Watson possibly nearing a return. But it is interesting to know, like, if Jacoby Brissett continues to play well, do you kind of shake things up and you put in Deshaun Watson, potentially kind of ruining the chemistry that's in that offensive room right now? That's kind of something that's talked about. What was talked about with Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels. People who wanted JT Daniels back, a lot of people were saying, like, why would you kind of ruin the continuity that you have on offense right now? You're winning games. Your offense is looking good right now with Stetson Bennett. And do you want to try and switch things around again when you're 5 weeks in with Stetson Bennett and the team is producing? Kind of goes the same way now, but this time you're 11 or 12 weeks into the season. So do you want to switch it out and bring in Deshaun Watson? I don't know what they've been doing at practice in regards to that, but.
So the thing is, in other situations, I'd say that would be something that you would be concerned about as a team and not knowing what you're going to do. But right now, your team's sitting at 3-7, so it's not going to matter. And you just paid this guy what, $250 million, whatever it was. You're gonna make the guy play. Like you're gonna play him. Brissett, I've appreciated what he's been able to put together this season. We've talked about him off and on throughout the entire season at this point about how he has been pretty impressive with what he's been able to do there. They're still losing some games. It's not on him and it's not on Nick Chubb for the most part. Today was a pretty rough one for him. But the MVP of that game, before we move on, was definitely Tyler Bass. Tyler Bass was able to, he was 6 for 6 and a 56-yard long. He was responsible for 19 points of that 31 points they scored today. So Josh Allen was struggling. They would get down the field a little bit and just enough into his field goal range for him to be able to take one for the team there and help them continue to go.
It's not great when your kicker is kicking 6 field goals, though. That looks great.
And only one extra point. He only had one extra point.
And that's great for your fantasy team if you have him on your fantasy team. But, man, there you go. Stoddard has him on his fantasy team.
I do. 23 points.
Man, that ain't a good look, man. If you're settling for field goals that much, you're probably not going to win that football game.
So the next big one, the Eagles. We've talked about them a lot this season. They are currently 9-1. They squeaked out a win today against the Colts, which was it was a low-scoring game, 17-16. Matt Ryan, he actually, it was just an average game, 213 yards for him, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But Jalen Hurts is the story on that one. Only 190 yards passing and 1 touchdown. So it was not a great offensive performance, but he came through in the stretch. Down the line, in the last couple of drives of that game, he really pulled from behind. I think they were down 10-3, and then it was 16-10. And he just late in that game was able to crawl back into it and show them that he can lead them to a victory down the stretch like that. And that was pretty impressive for me. Even though it wasn't a great game overall, he definitely helped will his team to a win to keep them at that 9-1 record. I
could have told you the Colts were losing when I saw a video of Jeff Saturday doing push-ups on the field right before the game. Major Jeff Collins vibes. Major, let's bring weights out onto the field and let's do a pre-lift before our game. That type of thing. All right, what are we doing here? Why are we doing push-ups? I just think that whole hire is gimmicky in general for the Colts. But I will say it is promising if you're a Colts fan to see that. I mean, they were competitive against the best team record-wise in the NFL right now. You were right in the mix of it. You right there until the end. So that's a good thing. But I think what's good about seeing Jalen Hurts do that is they kind of dabbled on this a little bit with Justin Fields going against the Falcons, is that you have seen what Justin Fields can do with his legs, how he can impact the game there. But now it's time to see if he can beat a team with his arm. It's do or die drive. The game's on your shoulders right now. Can you ice it away and do it by throwing the ball? And Jalen Hurts has done that. He's shown a lot of growth throwing the ball this season in general. So the Eagles continue to roll, man. And I know that, again, the Colts aren't the greatest team and they're not the greatest example of how good the Eagles are. But, man, if you're producing wins in the NFL, that's all that matters. And the Eagles are very much producing wins. And they got a good thing going right now.
Jeff Saturday is a coach.
I heard you say that Jeff Saturday is gimmicky, and I get it. I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, he's made that team that has not been competitive all year competitive.
No, yeah, definitely.
In 2 games,
and
2 games.
you know what? He came out and he said, "Listen, am I going to come in here and revolutionize the game with X's and O's?" He goes, "That's not what I'm going to do." He's like, "But I'm going to motivate these guys to play and get them to play hard." And one of the first things he did was he undid what the other coach did, which was benching Matt Ryan. And the other coach did that to save his own ass. That's why he did it. He benched Matt Ryan to say, "Oh, it's the quarterback's fault we're not winning. I'm going to go in this different direction." Then after the shit show that they put together with the other quarterback in there,
Sam Ellinger,
and they fired him. I mean, and you know what? When you bench Matt Ryan and put in Ellinger, you deserve to be fired at that point. You've just basically told me I'm crapping on this entire football team. So they went and got Jeff Saturday. But you know who you haven't heard a lot of bitching from? The guys in that locker room. You know why? Because he's doing the right things. Is he Bill Belichick? No, he's not that guy. He's not that guy right now. No, he's not. But he's not trying to be either. He went in there and decided that, you know what, this team just needs to be motivated to play. Like, and if you listen to the way he's talking to these guys, he tells them how talented they are. And, is it a little rah-rah? Maybe. Is it a little corny? Maybe. But to your point, they lost 24-0 to the freaking Jacksonville Jaguars, fellas. Okay? Talk about an uninspired team. And they're playing hard now. And they went nose to nose with the number 1 team in the NFL and lost by a point. Yeah, I'll take those results.
Well, and again, talking about where Indianapolis was prior to Jeff Saturday's arrival, I mean, that environment screamed of coaches that were kind of laying down this memo of like, yeah, we're not good and we're okay with that. We're just going to kind of embrace it and we're just going to ride this thing out until it burns to the ground. And we're going to get ourselves a top 5 draft pick. That's what we're going to do because, we talked about how like there's no reason why you go and sign a dude like Matt Ryan, who hasn't been the problem for you all season, and you bench him to put in Sam Ellinger. And there's no reason why that Colts team should be losing as bad as they did. I know Jonathan Taylor was hurt for a little bit, and then the whole Matt Ryan thing happened as well. But still, there was no reason for that team to be as bad as they were. And I think once they kind of started hitting some bumps in the road, when that team went from, oh, this is a potential playoff contender to like, oh crap, it looks like we suck. They were just kind of like, oh, we're just going to disguise it as we suck, like you said, Dan. We're just going to play it off like, yeah, this is who we knew we were all along, and we're just really going to embrace it. And Jeff Saturday came in there and said, no, sirree, that is not how we're going to do things around here. I'm going to fight for y'all, and y'all going to fight for me, and we're going to do this thing the right way.
So my question on it is this. So like he came out, I'm pretty sure if I heard this correctly, and it's basically like he's not calling plays, right? Like because he just got in there, he doesn't know what's going on, in the organization. He hadn't even been in the NFL. The guy was coaching just down the road, I think, in Decula, Georgia, high school football. And then he jumps over to the NFL. So obviously he's not calling plays and stuff like that. So I think his role that he's playing right now is basically what Dan was talking about, being a motivator of the men in the locker room and trying to get them to have the winning mentality and doing it that way. And they do seem to be fighting a little bit stronger. So the question remains at this point, and I think the Colts GMs came out and said something about, potentially having him longer than just this season. He's the interim coach. But what are the odds that he stays there as a head coach after this season, considering he did just come from last year or this year coaching high school football, no other coaching experience, and jumped straight to the NFL? What'd you say, Dan?
High school. Listen, he was the head coach at Hebron High School last year. Yeah. He decided to step aside because his role at ESPN had grown, and he was much more involved up there, and he was having to be away from the team much more than he needed to be. So they went out and spent a lot of money and got Eagles Landing Christian's coach, and they're paying that man a ton of money to coach football. But that's neither here nor there. He did a great job while he was at Hebron, by the way. And he had an opportunity to coach his son, who is playing football in North Carolina just like he did. So that was cool. I wasn't jumping on you boys. I've had it up to here with all the bullshit about Jeff Saturday doesn't deserve to coach. What makes these other guys have a right to coach? Okay, just because like you can take coffee orders and break down film. I'm like, are you telling me Jeff Saturday doesn't understand football? You know what nobody ever has a problem with is nobody has a problem with these guys getting jobs in the NBA and they've never coached anything. They haven't even coached an AAU team or nothing. They've done nothing. They walk off the court and they get an NBA job and they make more than NFL coaches. So where's the outrage when Jason Kidd is sitting on the bench? Nobody has a problem with that. I mean, you're going to hand them the Brooklyn Nets.
I understand. Like, I don't have a problem with them going to Jeff Saturday necessarily. My question isn't, should they have hired him as an interim coach or not? My question is, with everything that is there, do you think that they go? Because, like, the interim coach, like, unless you start winning and stuff like that, that's when you end up getting to keep the job. But, like, most of the time, the interim coach, if you're not winning and turning things around like that, you don't necessarily get to keep the job. And it felt like a move where, like, the Colts fans would just love a Hall of Fame guy from their organization that was in a Super Bowl, won Super Bowl with them, played in 2 Super Bowls. He definitely knows the game of football. The question's not whether or not he knows the game of football, like, at all, because he definitely does that. He's a very intelligent guy on that side of the center, is responsible for a lot of things, and he was a darn good one, and once again, a Hall of Fame guy. So he's definitely able to. My question is whether or not you think that he would, if you think that the Colts will stick with him after this year.
Who freaking knows,
There's no
man?
way
It's
to
so hard to
tell.
tell. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to tell with interim coaches because, I think in a lot of cases with interim coaches, it becomes real personal with players because especially when things aren't going well, and then you bring in a new guy, and all of a sudden you got a whole lot new life in you. Like all of a sudden there's new energy in here. You're wanting to fight for it because typically an interim coach is going to be someone that a lot of the players like personally. That's typically how it goes. They bring it. It's just a guy within the staff that they all of a sudden label as a new head coach for now, and they label as interim. And that provides a lot of motivation for the players because they want to fight for that coach. They want to give him the best chance to take over that job as well. And in this scenario, it's a little different. But at the same time, like we said, Jeff Saturday is doing typically what every other interim coach is doing. He's trying his best to bring in new energy in life. I said the push-ups before the game were corny, and they were. But at the same time, like, that's something that the players are probably taking attention to. And maybe that brings new life into them. That brings a different type of energy. And that's all your team needs. And then, but at the end of the day, what it's going to be predicated around is what the head coaching market looks like after the season. And then also, are you ending on a high note? Are you ending your season on a high note? Because, there's this peak end rule effect where nobody really remembers what happens at the beginning. It's all about what happens at the end. So how do you end your stretch as the interim head coach? How do things turn out for you there at the end? And that's what that future is going to be decided upon.
And also, I think the biggest thing that you have to look at to see whether he comes back or not is, are the coaches on the staff willing to coach, right? So that's another big thing. And he promoted a guy to the offensive coordinator, play caller position. I think he's like 32 or 33 years old, look really, really young. I want to say his last name is Clark. I'm not 100% sure. But if they, I think it's twofold. If they finish strong, right, to your point, Jonathan, if they have a good finish to the season, they're playing inspired football, playing at a higher level than they were, and then all the coaches that are on the staff agree to stay or buy in or whatever, or if he's able to put together an even better staff, then I think he's in a great position to keep that job. But if the coaches are like, dude, I am not coaching with this guy, like this is not going to happen, then obviously they're going to have to go somewhere else. And to your point, Jonathan, it's so difficult to know because you don't know what jobs are going to open. So, but I think we've beat Jeff Saturday to death. Jeremiah, where you want to go next?
So the next game, got to talk about, which we haven't gotten to yet. Usually we kind of go early on this, is the Falcons game, right? Falcons actually looking okay. 27-24, beating the Bears. Bears have not been terrible this year. They aren't the best team, but they've shown some fight in some games. And the Falcons are sitting at 5-6 right now after beating the Chicago Bears. A not so great performance offensively for either quarterback in the game. Justin Fields had a chance to go down the field late in the game. He had the ball in his hands and ended up throwing an interception to end the game. So he didn't exactly. We were talking about Jalen Hurts earlier, and actually you brought up Justin Fields in that conversation, Jonathan, about Jalen Hurts and having the chance to win a game late and do something like that. Justin Fields tries to do that, throws an interception late in the game, and all of a sudden Falcons are almost at 500 because of it.
Let me just get in here real quick on this though. Talking about Justin Fields on that last drive, yeah, he did throw the interception, but his offensive coordinator did no services for him. First play of the possession, he runs out wide over to the left and he gets tackled down out of bounds, and he is in gruesome pain. I mean, he is holding his left shoulder. He's slow to get up, and you could just tell by the look on his face. He's grimacing. He's holding his shoulder. He is not feeling good. Very next play, what do they freaking do? They call a designed run. for Justin Fields. Why? Why are you doing that? Clearly, your quarterback is in pain right now, and you decide that you want to make him run again. And so Grady Jarrett, even though he slides, Grady Jarrett kind of nicks him in the head. Possibly could have been an unnecessary roughness call, and he starts grabbing on that shoulder again. And so then the very next play, he ends up throwing an interception. Maybe it had to do with the injury, maybe not. It was his left shoulder, so it wasn't his throwing shoulder, but he just really probably never felt comfortable on that final drive. So the offensive coordinator did nothing good for him there. He was not trying to help his guy out. So, but going to the Falcons point, I just want to say this. It was a great day for the Falcons draft class this year. You know, Troy Anderson got in the game a lot. He got a lot of playing time. He made some big plays, had a big tackle for loss on third down. Drake London had a touchdown reception today. AK had a sack as well, another one of the draft picks from this year. So we've all given the Falcons crap for how they have done in the draft, the decisions they make. I know Dan has been really hot about it a lot of the time about it, and rightfully so a lot of the time, because some of those draft picks, you just go down the list, not a lot of them have panned out. This year, it's looking a little different. It seems like a lot of these guys that they went with, you know, a lot of people had issues with Drake London. Drake London's been one of the best rookie wide receivers in all of the NFL this year, and that's been with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. But the important thing is you got the win. You're still in the playoff hunt. You're 5-6 now, I want to say, but you're still in the playoff hunt. You still have a chance, and that's all you can ask for as a Falcons fan. So a lot of good things to go from that game, and then again, just poor Justin Fields, the offensive coordinator. Man.
I'm not going to let you get away with that. Troy Anderson's getting into the game. You're a second-round draft pick. You're supposed to be a starter. The second-round draft pick is a starter. And this guy is he is 11 games into his rookie season. He's getting 5 tackles in the game playing middle linebacker. My God.
Dan, you're gonna make me say something that a lot of people here are not going to like, but I'm about to say it. He's on the field right now. You know who isn't on the field right now? Nakobe Dean.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying. That's who everybody wanted the Falcons to take. And the best ability is availability. Now, again, that's not me at all nicking Nakobe Dean or anything like that. Nakobe Dean is a phenomenal football player. But Troy Anderson is playing well. You can't ignore that. Again, he had a big tackle for loss on third down. Those are pivotal moments that you want your second-round pick at middle linebacker to make. And he played the part. He played the role, and he looked good doing it. You know, he's been slow developing-wise. It's kind of been a late development this season-wise, but still, you still seem like you got a good pick at linebacker, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. And Troy Anderson is looking the part, in my opinion.
It's just tough, man. The guy's got 19 tackles in 11 games. That's rough.
Oh.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, the one thing that I'm starting to get concerned about on the Bears angle is Justin Fields is having more carries every single week than running backs. I mean, he's the leading carry. Yeah, no, he had 18 carries today. David Montgomery had 17. He had more carries than Cordell Patterson, who is our starting running back. He had more carries than Nick Chubb did, and he's a starting running back up there. He had more carries than Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt combined. So here's my thing with Justin Fields is
they're going to get him killed.
When he has to throw the ball, he's in trouble. He can't throw the ball. He makes bad decisions. I mean, the guy's got an amazing arm, but it just never gets where it's supposed to go. And whatever. If that's the case, and he's that effective as a running back, and honestly, he is. I mean, as a running back, he's amazing.
He was effective today.
He's 6'3", 228. Put an extra 10 pounds on him, bulk him up in the offseason, and make him your starting tailback, and go get a quarterback in the draft. I know you're laughing at me, but what was Cordell Patterson drafted as?
Wide receiver, wasn't he?
A wide receiver. And guess what they did? They put some weight on him and realized that he was better out of the backfield.
He's been one of the best backs. He's been one of the most consistent backs now in the NFL.
It's funny.
Tim Tebow was one of the most successful. And there are people who will argue that he is the greatest college football quarterback in the history of college football. And Denver gave him a shot, and then and everybody else was like, "You are a terrible quarterback, but you could play running back." And he didn't want to do it. So it's an ego thing with him.
Didn't want to play tight end either.
He tried to play tight end for a little bit, didn't he, with the Jets? Didn't he get
Jaguars.
No, it was not the Jets. It was
Jaguars.
The Jaguars. But that
Jaguars,
was a
that's right.
As soon as Urban Meyer got hired, he brought his boy Timmy over, and he said, "Hey, let's give this a run. Let's get us some good publicity going on. We'll get Timmy T back in the mix." And it took one preseason game of Tim Tebow getting thrown on his butt, and they were like, yeah, that's wraps. Go back to playing minor league baseball and being an average athlete on the baseball field."
All
Yeah,
right, so Zach
absolutely.
tells me I got to give him a chance. Zach, I will give him a chance. I mean, I don't have a choice. He's on my freaking team. I have to give him a chance. But I'm just angry because the Falcons always do this with players. They go and they have to be the smartest person in the room. There are plenty of guys in the second round that are starting in the NFL right now, and we don't have one of them. But anyway, in honor of you, Zach, and you do a great job of supporting everything that we do, I will calm down on Anderson for you, specifically for you. The rest of y'all, nah.
I hear you, Dan. I got you. All right. Well, another game that was a pretty crazy ending on it today, and I know we usually all watch Red Zone and stuff, so you don't see every play of what happened in every game, but we try to see what's going on in the majority of games in general. Crazy game up in New England. The Jets and New England Patriots both tied 3-3. Few seconds left in the game, like less than 30 seconds left in the game, and the Jets have to punt. Well, they punt, and the New England runs the punt back 84 yards for a touchdown to win that game 10-3. Talking about a no offensive game at all. The Jets out here with like less than 100 yards, or I think it was 102 yards, 103 yards of total offense in that game. That's an NFL team with 103 yards of total offense in a game. Dear God.
I mean, there was another game too. Oh, it was the Washington game. Washington scored one touchdown today. One of the other touchdowns came from a pick six as well. So I guess maybe it just wasn't a great day for offenses in general. But so you said 100 and how many?
103 yards total offense.
But for New England?
No, for the Jets.
Oh, yeah, Wilson has 77 yards passing.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of Zach Wilson trying to throw a screen out to the boundary and sailed it 5 yards above the dude's head. It ain't looking good over there in New York for Zach Wilson. That's going to be a selection I think they're really going to regret at quarterback.
Listen, if you're a mom, watch out. But listen, Zach Wilson, their team passing total went from 77 yards to 44 yards because they had 4 sacks for 33 yards. That is crazy. And then Zach Wilson was your leading rusher with 26 yards, which I don't understand that. Like, I mean, the dude got sacked for 30. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But you're right.
They subtract the yardage from team passing yards. Not even his personal passing. It's team passing yards, which is where the total offense goes down like that. But it's a weird stat how that works as far as the sacks go. Yeah, but he was asked after the game by a reporter if he felt like he let down like his defense today because his defense played well, holding New England up into the punt return to 3 points. And he goes, "No, my dude, you had 70 yards passing today."
That's horrible. That is horrible. And let me tell you why. Because who's the guy that everybody looks to in the locker room or typically does? It's your quarterback. And most every other quarterback, when you talk to them about a post game after that, especially after your offense doesn't do jack crap for the entire game, a quarterback is going to be typically taking the blame, and he should be taking the blame in that scenario, whether it's your fault or not, and you feel like it is. Just do the team morale thing, man, and say like, "Yep, that's on me. We got to get better. I want to get better for this team. I did not do my part today, and we really did let that defense down." Because, yeah, you did, dude. I mean, look at the scoreboard, man. Nobody has to look at the box score and see how bad you played today. You can just look at the scoreboard and see how bad it was.
You know, the one thing that's really letting everybody down right now is this cold weather. And if, everybody thinks it's cool to watch a cold weather game, it's not. Go look at the Thursday night football game when it was snowing in Green Bay. Like, one of the things that I love about watching NFL football is these guys are the best in the world at what they do, right? And they are just incredible athletes. The way that they move, the way that they run, the athleticism that they play with. You watch them play in cold weather, they look like robots. They're running at half speed. And that's as fast as they can go, by the way, because they're freezing to death. They can't catch footballs. Quarterbacks can't grip the football. Cold weather is what is killing the game of football right now. Go look at these games. Look, New England and the Jets outside in New England. I think it was like 17 or 18 degrees outside. I mean, that nor'easter or whatever was like right over the top of them. Dude, there was 8 foot of snow in Buffalo. They couldn't play the game. I mean, they were showing first of all, side note, in Buffalo, the residents were going and digging out the football players out of their houses so they could get to the airport, which is cool, right? Mm-hmm. But how does all the people know where the players live? Is that not a little weird? Right? Is that not a little weird?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
a
It's
little
probably
weird.
like if your neighbor. It's probably like if your neighbor is like on the football team, you're gonna know he's
I
on.
guess there's no hiding who. If Josh Allen's your neighbor, you're
Yeah, like
probably
you
gonna
know
know.
where Josh Allen lives if you live in his subdivision or something like that. It's probably like the
Yeah.
sub like those were probably it probably wasn't people driving like an hour to go find their house and like do it because like they probably couldn't have done it. I assume it's probably neighborhood type stuff. But yeah,
Now
that
I
is
just thought it. I thought it was a little bit weird. I was watching the NFL pregame show this morning. They showed like neighbors digging them out so they could get like people taking them on snowmobiles.
Hey,
I'm
Bills
like,
Mafia don't play, man.
hey, just make sure they don't break tables, man.
Dude, look. Speaking of cold, now I already said that me and Stoddard were up there in Lexington, and it was cold. I mean, it was cold. And
frozen.
I had on layers upon layers. I was like, I am not letting the cold get to me today. This is not happening. I'm not going to let that ruin my day.
Didn't help.
I was still cold. I get it. Like, once your adrenaline gets going, you're no longer cold, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Nah, man. If I'm sitting there not doing anything and I'm freezing my butt off in the stands, and you got players down there in short sleeves, man. Yeah, you can bet they're cold. And everything feels so much harder to do. I mean, just walking, it feels like you're in so much pain. Your hands get cold, your hands get numb. Like just getting kind of punched in the shoulder. Cold just makes everything hurt a lot more. It amplifies pain for sure. So yeah, playing football is not ideal in the cold weather. And it's a reason why Georgia, Kentucky was a snooze fest because the teams were it was clear that Georgia's game plan was like,
Run the ball.
get us the heck out of here with a win. We don't care how ugly it looks. Just get us the heck out of Lexington. Nobody wants to play in the cold, no matter how much people say. People sitting in their living rooms with a fire going want to be like, oh, yeah, I want to watch this game in the snow. Yeah, because you're warm. Nobody on that field wants to be out there.
Look, I'm telling you, I thought it would be so awesome to play a football game in the snow until I went to college and I played a football game in the snow. Guess what was not awesome? Playing football in the snow, especially if it's wet snow.
Oh
if it's wet snow, you get the first time you get tackled, you get wet and your body's soaking wet. And
then
now
you
you're
really
having to
cold.
play. Now you have to play 3.5 hours in, I believe it was like 14 degrees that day.
And you're
mean,
freaking wet. No,
I've never been in that much pain in my life. Not ever in my life. That was miserable. I hated every minute. I almost quit. I was about to walk off the field in the middle of the football game. I hated it that much.
Man, and that's why your boy chose basketball. Indoor sport, the heat is on. We're Gucci in we're Gucci indoors, man. I wanted no part of being in the cold. Oh gosh, tackle sport too, nonetheless. Yeah, call me weak all you want. Maybe I think I'm just smarter in that scenario.
On our show, we do a great job, I think, of trying to recap and talking a little bit about these games. There's the rest of these games I'm not really, except for I did want to mention the Lions have won a couple games in a row. And if they are able to get Jalen Carter to play next to Aiden Hutchinson, that might be the most nastiest defensive line outside of that Eagles defensive line if Jordan gets healthy. But you had something to add on the Lions?
Yeah, I think it was they rattled off a stat today about the Lions, and I can't remember if it was back-to-back road wins or if it was just 2 road wins in a season, but it was the first time since 2015 that the Lions have won multiple road games. I believe it was back-to-back, like consecutive road games, but it's the first time since 2015 that the Detroit Lions have done so.
Well, I'm actually happy for the Lions. They've had a pathetic season, but the Raiders finally winning the football game, boys.
How about them?
I mean,
how about them?
I mean, can we just say that is probably one of the most underperforming teams in the NFL? Like,
it is.
That team should
100%.
be. Yeah, okay. Just as long as we're on the same
100%.
page.
They should be. They shouldn't be a bad football team today. And no, we were watching that game as like we were about to come on the air. That game just ended in overtime, and it ended in overtime with Adams scoring a touchdown. Who was their whole offense today? He was all over the place, and he was wide open. I mean, they just left him by himself on a like a kind of like a corner route, essentially, and he just by himself. But no, that team has definitely underperformed this year and hasn't been what they should have been. They started out, losing 3 of 4 games or something like that, or did they lose the first?
They started 1
by like a point or 2 points. I mean, they were all like 1-score games.
Yeah, they were looking rough all season. No, but another game too that you mentioned a little bit ago, Jonathan, was Washington and Houston.
I was just about to bring them up again.
Yeah, exactly. So like that team, like the only thing I really want to talk about out of that overall was after the game, they came out and they now officially named Heineke the starting quarterback.
Yep.
So they are officially going with him over Wentz. Wentz is the backup, right?
And if you watched the interview, but yes, you're correct, Starter. But if you watched the interview, he got emotional when she asked him about it because she said, you got named the permanent starter for this football team. How does that make you feel? And the dude started getting emotional talking about it because the guy was not playing football 2 years ago. He was pretty much out of the league. He thought his career was over, and now he's a starting quarterback for the Washington football team. And on top of that, this team started 1-4. They've now won 6 of their last 7. So yeah, Heineke's going to be getting a new pair of J's, Dan. He's going to be
Yes,
getting
he
a new
is.
colorway.
Hey,
That's still the
not
coolest
only
thing to me. That's I don't know. I like that. It's dumb, but I like it.
not only was he not playing football, you know what he was doing last year at this time? Training youth quarterbacks here in Buford. I mean,
That's pretty cool.
he's from Collins Hill, whatever. I mean, so he's from this area, whatever. But I mean, think about that. So, like, I have a bunch of friends whose their kids were working out with him, and they're like he's winning these games, and they're posting pictures with their kid with Tyler training last week, and I just thought that was freaking awesome. The only other game I did want to mention before I really want to talk Chargers and Chiefs in pregame, and I know we typically just give them picks, but I do want to talk a little bit about that game, but. I listen. The Steelers lost today, 37-30. Steelers have been bad all year long, but they were competitive today, boys. And the Bengals, I jinxed the hell out of them last week by saying they were playing good football, and then they got boat raced. But the Bengals looked like the Bengals today. They played a good football game, but the Steelers, even though they lost, they actually looked pretty good and pretty competitive today. I don't know if you guys caught any of that.
Yeah, Pickens was looking really good in that game. He made a lot of nice plays. He scored a touchdown today. I have him in fantasy too, and I started the wrong receiver from the Steelers today, and that's my fault.
Death
I should have
taxes
gone
and
with
George Pickens going viral. I mean, that's just been the thing about that's been George Pickens' season this year. Every single week, he's not going to post it, but someone's going to post some stupid highlight reel of George Pickens just being insane, non-human, doing things that typically don't seem possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and let's transition to that game. Dan, you wanted to talk about the Chiefs and Chargers. I'm gonna give you the floor. Let's get into that game before we do our picks. We'll do that, and then we'll pick the game, and then we'll go into our Monday night pick as well.
All right, so the Chiefs are 7-2 on the year, and the Chargers are 5-4. But the Chiefs are a really, really good football team, but they have struggled. And Clyde, the Edwards-Helaire, their running back, not taking DeAndre Swift was the biggest miss. And I remember watching that draft, and when they called his name, I was like, "You've got to be shitting me right now." And then they were like, "Oh, this is such a great pick." And I'm like, "No, DeAndre Swift in that offense would have been a complete cheat code." And that is the one thing that they're missing right now is they do not have a run game. And so they're putting this 100% on Mahomes' shoulders. And I mean, listen, he's so freaking good that they're going to win their ball games or whatever, but they've already lost 2. And the Chargers are a complete disappointment, in my opinion. Justin Herbert, I was a really big fan of his, and I thought he had a chance to be on the Josh Allen level. I really did. I thought he was that good, and he is not playing that well. Austin Eckler has been amazing for the Chargers. Imagine if you had Austin Eckler on this Chiefs team, how freaking awesome that would be. But listen, I love watching Chiefs football games. They're so exciting. I'm just hoping that we get Herbert to match the energy that the Chiefs are going to put out there tonight and just make this a really good football game. I have a feeling that the games have been pretty crappy all day long, and there's been a couple good things, but we haven't really had that high level. Like think about back earlier in the season, boys. I mean, we came on here just hyped for the show, and we didn't have a lot of that. But I think this game has a chance to save the day. Like I think this has a chance to be a really good game.
It has a chance to be a good primetime game for once. We don't get a lot of good primetime games. This one could be a good primetime game.
Well, the good news for Herbert is that there was an alert earlier today that Keenan Allen will be playing today. He's at least labeled as healthy, which they haven't had him all season. So I guess that teams need to call up Georgia and figure out how you have a successful offense without your number one wide receiver, because Georgia's done it in back-to-back years. So someone needs to go hit up Kirby Smart and then boys down there in Georgia and say, like, how the heck are you doing this? Because we can't figure it out. So maybe Keenan Allen coming back brings back some confidence for Justin Herbert, and that offense can get rolling because, they've got the running back. They've got the run game. They've got the dual threat running back in Austin Eckler who can do a little bit of everything. Maybe if Justin Herbert can get things rolling, Keenan Allen, maybe it opens up some things else, some other players on the field as well. But yeah, hopefully it's just a barn burner, man. I hope it's Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes just dueling it out like everybody is hoping it to be.
The one
What's
thing that
the
the Chiefs did do, and this is part of the reason that they had to get rid of Tyreek Hill, is they started to spend a little bit of money on the defense. They started to realize that they couldn't just beat everybody 90-75 every single week. They had to like stop people at some point. Tyreek Hill in that offense was an absolute cheat code, and I think it took them a while to adjust to not having him. And I think the cool part for us Georgia fans is we're actually getting to see Mecole Hardman start filling in that Tyreek role. They're starting to use him much in the same way that they use Tyreek. I totally forgot earlier in the year that they got Juju because they haven't been using him. But Juju Smith-Schuster, when he was in Pittsburgh, he was a freaking incredible machine. I have no idea why he's not putting up massive numbers in Kansas City. I mean, that should have been plug and play all day. I have no idea who the Scantling guy is, but he's getting a lot of those touches. So
He came from Green Bay.
is that where it came from?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Juju's not having a bad year, but he's out today though. I think he got rocked last week. I think he's out with concussion. He got rocked last week. But I mean, his season so far, 46 receptions and 615 yards. He doesn't have a lot of touchdowns. He's only got 2 touchdowns, but he is getting some touches as far in some yardage production there. But you also got to think over there, Travis Kelce's their leading receiver for a reason. I mean, he's got 740 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's why Juju Smith-Schuster's not getting as much, because they're tight end. They're playing with a guy kind of like Georgia does with tight ends. You got somebody like that on your roster, you got to get him the ball. So in this game, though, I think an important detail, and then we'll transition into actually making the picks now because we got about 4 minutes until the game's starting to kick off. It's at least it's in LA, right? We're talking about all this cold weather everywhere. It would probably be pretty cold in Kansas City right now, right? Like it would probably be pretty cold in Kansas City. I don't know what the weather actually would be there, but it's in LA, so it's going to be a warm game for them. And so that's why I do think we're going to get a pretty good game tonight, because we're not going to have one of these cold weather games out there. So we'll start with you, Dan. How you feeling about the game tonight? What are you picking? The spread I think is minus 5.5. Yeah, 5.5 for Kansas City.
Kansas City 5.5 on the road. They say give 3 points on the road. So you're really saying that this is an 8.5 point game. I don't know, man. That's rich, but it is the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to go Chiefs. The over under is 53. There's no way.
I'm taking the over on that.
Oh, I go Chiefs and over. That's what I'm doing. Hey,
I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well, and I'll tell you why. I know you just kind of talked about how they really don't have a good running game, but the Chargers are one of the worst teams in run defense this year. They're horrible. Falcons ran all over them when they played them. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in that one. I think Patrick Mahomes is still going to do his thing, but I think when you're able to add in a successful run game alongside what Patrick Mahomes can do with his arm, it's just really hard to stop that. The Chargers have had some issues on defense, and I think there's going to be an adjusting period. I'm also interested to see how healthy Keenan Allen actually is. So I'm going to still roll with the Chiefs in that one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs as well. I don't think Keenan Allen's going to really be a factor too much just yet. If he hadn't been playing all season, coming out tonight, he might get some time, but I don't know if he's going to be like that. Wouldn't be a decision for me to, that wouldn't impact my decision towards the Chargers on this. I do think Kansas City's going to go in there and roll. Like I said, Juju Smith-Schuster's not playing today, but Travis Kelce's still their leading receiver on the year. 63 catches too, so he's got like 20 more catches than Schuster does on the season going into this game, and 8 touchdowns. So I think they're going to roll tonight on that game. 5.5. Yeah, I'm with you, Dan. Usually you give them 3, so I wouldn't go with 8 on that, but 5.5, I'd say they could win by like 6. I think that can happen. Next game on the docket tomorrow night, you got the 5-4 49ers and the 4-6 Cardinals going against each other. San Francisco is -8 in that game, so they're favored by 8, and the game is in Arizona.
I'll go and start it off. I'm pretty sure. Well, did the Cardinals win last week? I don't think that they did.
No.
I think I saw a stat.
Maybe they did.
I think I saw a stat that
they lost to the Rams last week.
I think I saw a stat that said that Kyler Murray has not won a football game since the new Call of Duty came out. So I'm going to keep riding on that wave. And I'm going to go with the 49ers. The 49ers they aren't the most exciting team on offense, but they got a pretty good defense. And the Cardinals have had some issues on offense. They've been struggling a little bit over there. 49ers got a good defense. And Jimmy Garoppolo continues to kind of just get things done with the 49ers. They do what is needed of him. Doesn't do a lot for him, but he does enough to win football games. So I'm going to go with the 49ers.
So you know how when a player is not going to play, it will say like Juju Smith-Schuster out for tonight's game, and in parentheses it will say concussion. So last week it said Kyler Murray out for tonight's game, parentheses Modern Warfare. That shit was hilarious.
It's
That
double
was
XP
actually
weekend, man. You got
Double XP weekend.
double XP weekend. Listen, that Arizona Cardinals team has got to be one of the most frustrating teams to watch, but they do have Nuke Hopkins, and my God, like he was out for half the season. Was it 10 games or something like that? Why was he suspended? I don't even know. Does anybody know?
Was it PEDs?
Yeah, it's PEDs.
Okay. Well, he came back and lit the world on fire. The minute he got back, he was just like, oh, by the way, I still remember how to play football and I'm really good at it and a lot better than anybody you have. And so for that reason, Kyler Murray is kind of a shithead. And Hopkins went after him. So 2 weeks ago, he didn't play last week, but he did 2 weeks ago. And he just did dumb stuff, just doing Kyler Murray dumb stuff. And Nuke Hopkins went after him, lit his butt up. And what's this, like Kingsbury or whatever his name is, had to go
Cliff
over
Kingsbury.
there. Yeah, he had to basically keep DeAndre Hopkins from beating the hell out of Kyler Murray. And I'm telling you, that guy wants to win. And that's the one thing I've always loved about that guy is that guy wants to win. He plays hard. And for that reason, I know that's a long way to go there. I'm going to go the Cardinals because that guy just wants to win. And I think they're either going to win or he's going to murder Murray on the field. And either would be really awesome to watch.
So I'm gonna take San Francisco, but at 8 points is a lot, and I don't think San Francisco is going to be able to commandingly win. I'm going to go ahead and say that they win, but I don't think they cover that 8-point spread. I don't think they can. I don't think they're going to do that. I just don't have the confidence in Jimmy G to sit here and just like blow a team out. And I know that's not necessarily blowing a team out, but so you're going to say they're going to win? What?
Put Zach's comment on the screen. Oh, you got to put that on the screen. Oh,
carpal tunnel. That's well done, good. Zach. That's pretty good right there. No, so I'm going to take that. I'm taking San Francisco. But I'm not gonna take them on the points. I'm gonna say they don't cover, but they win the game. Anything else to add, fellas? That game is about to kick off right now.
No? Hey man, I appreciate you guys joining us. Please like, share, tell your friends about it. Give us some feedback, man. We want to give you the best show possible. So if we're not doing something, if we need to up the ante, if we need to bring more energy, you tell us. But we're here for you guys. So let's go.
Sounds like a plan. As always, guys, it's been a pleasure. Everybody get ready. This game's about to kick off right now as it is time. It is past time that we usually go, but we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We love all you guys. Make sure you catch us back here next week after week 12, and we will see you guys later on.